High concern chemicals needs to be substituted. But what can we know about the substitutes? There is an estimation on that 85% of all chemicals on the EU market have unknown, or at least partly unknown, hazardous properties. And there are so many chemicals on the EU market, I think more than 100,000. So it's not easy to know anything about these substitutes. And that's one of the reasons we have developed the SINimilarity tool, to make it easier for anyone who uses it to get that type of information. So what is SINimilarity? It's a web-based tool that's very easy to use. You don't have to be an expert to use it. It's been designed to be used by anyone. It can easily identify substances that are similar to SIN list substances. It is integrated in the SIN list. You will find it on the same web page. And one of the aims is to help avoiding regrettable substitution by pointing out substances that are similar to the SIN listed compounds. It is widely accepted in chemistry that structurally similar compounds often have similar properties. So why not use the SIN list as a reference for hazards? It's an established list. The hazardous properties are well documented, and it has a workable number of substances. The structure-activity relationships on the list can easily be assessed in a manual fashion. Maybe the most important thing I would say is that the hazardous properties are so well documented. So if something is similar to a compound on the SIN list, we can really trust that the compound on the SIN list have hazardous properties. And that's very important if you compare something unknown with it. So how did we do this? How was SINimilarity developed? One of the cornerstones in SINimilarity is the new grouping. The grouping gave us the rules for the SINimilarity. So the SINimilarity process behind the scene know what to look for. The grouping of the SIN list is, of course, a lot more complicated than just grouping pears or bananas or apples together. That's quite easy. So the grouping is SIN is based on structure elements that are believed to be carrying the hazardous properties. We have selected 31 of these structure elements, and each of them form a group. That means we have formed 31 groups. On this slide, you see a picture of a compound. It's actually one of the new ones on the SIN list. It contains 2 of these structure elements. In blue, you can see a polyhalogenated aromatic, and in red, it's a phthalate. So this one belongs to these 2 groups. On these slides, here are all the 31 groups listed. Marked in red are all the metals. On this slide, we have a few selected well-recognizable groups that are heavily debated during these days. I think you can all recognize them. But of course, not all groups are easy to recognize. By necessity, we have to use some chemical names on some of the groups also. So now we had grouped all the compounds and created rules for the SINimilarity. Then we entered a large background data set. We took 150,000 compounds from ECHA's database of pre-registered substances. And from those, we could retrieve the structures for about half, 80,000. The rest, we couldn't retrieve any structures because the Cas number were missing, or the chemicals consisted of very complex mixtures, so the structure were not usable. So now we have 80,000 substances in the SINimilarity tool that can all be compared with the compounds on the SIN list. So how can we know if a compound outside the SIN list is similar to something on the SIN list, or if it contains any of the group-specific structure elements? That is, if that unknown compound were on the SIN list, which group would it belong to? How can we know that? There are 80,000 compounds in there, so we need to do it by computers. The computation in similarity is that we use smart patterns and binary fingerprints from the Open Babel toolkit and Daylight software to assess structure similarity and to assess to search structure elements. These tools are quite often used in, for example, in the structural assessment part of QSAR, for example. If you go into details of these tools, you will find, I won't show you that here today, but you will find that they have been used over 20 or 30 years in the pharmaceutical industry to assess similarity between molecules. Now I will show you an example of a similarity search. This slide is a screenshot from the real thing. This is how the new SINlist is look on the new SINlist look on the web page. You find it on sinlist.chemsec.org. If I search for this cast number that's in the blue ring, I will get the information that this compound is not on the SINlist. And a new button will show that I can press, and then I start a SINimilarity search. I get information again from the SINimilarity search that this compound is not on the list, but one results are found in the large database of the 80,000 compounds. And the information, I will go through it now, is that this compound is similar to 3 SIN substances, as you can, and the cast number are listed below to the left. I also get the information that they contain the same structure element as these 3 SIN substances. In this case, it's an alkyl phenol. If I click on the plus button to the right, it should be there, a plus button. I've seen it on my screen. Then I get the information that these SIN compounds all have EDC properties. That means I have now found similarities on my unknown chemical to 3 SIN compounds. They contain the same structure element, and they have the compounds on the SIN all have EDC properties. That's kind of a severe similarity, and the recommendation is that you should look into this further before you use it in substitution. If you go behind the curtains of the SINimilarity, how it looks, you don't need to be an expert in assessing chemical structures, but anyway, here they are. In the blue box, that's the compound we searched for in the former slides. The 3 compounds below, they are the 3 compounds that SINimilarity returned as similar. Below the line are 2 compounds that you will not see in SINimilarity. They are not so similar, so they're not shown. Just to give you an idea what the similarity threshold. And you don't have to be an expert to see that the 3 above the line are more similar to the one in the blue box than the 2 below the line. I will say it again, the clarification, it's very important that the one who uses this tool understands that if you have a similarity of an unknown compound to anything on the SIN list, that doesn't mean they have the same properties. It's just an increased probability that they have. But it also goes in the other direction. If a chemical has no similarity, it doesn't mean it's free of any hazard properties. The SINimilarity tool only shows point out compounds that are similar to something on the SIN list. And then it's up to the user to decide the next step. So in summary, we have developed a tool, SINimilarity tool, which can easily identify substances that are similar to SIN list substances. And the aim is to help avoiding regrettable substitution. And if you write down this web address, you can try it today, now. It was released this morning at 8 o'clock. And hopefully it's fully functioning just now.
Thank you very much indeed, Lars. Thank you.
I'm not really. I have 2 slides left.
Oh, sorry.
Of course, we haven't done this all by ourselves. We got scientific advice from Dr. Thomas Olsson, Gothenburg University, and from Swedish Environmental Institute. Dr. Thomas Olsson, he's in the audience. Perhaps you can stand up.
Over there.
Yeah. Thomas, he also did all the chemistry programming in the SINimilarity tool. So if you have the really tough questions regarding fingerprints, etc., ask him.